You're listening to Women of Color Roar radio show on KNSJ FM in San Diego, 89.1, streaming live on the World Wide Web. And now we're live on Facebook on the Women of Color Roar Facebook page. And today is almost to the end of Black History Month, which we've been calling it Black Future Month, because we're looking at our history, but we're also planting the seeds for our future. And today is a very special day because we're celebrating on the show 21 years of the San Diego Association of Black Journalists. And if you know anything about raising kids, you know you have to get them through being a toddler, a baby, a toddler, and then those teenage years or something else. But once they get to 21, it's time to let them go, let them be free, and hand over the baton. And that's what this organization has done. On the show today, we have a summit, a presidential summit. We have two past presidents of the San Diego chapter, and we also have the brand new minted new president of the chapter. So I'm going to start by introducing them, and I'm going to start with Shelley Wade. And Shelley is, of course, familiar to those of us who listen to the radio. And Shelley is an accomplished media personality. She's on television. She's on the radio. She was on the radio in New York City. I mean, the #1 media market. And Shelley is the person who pops up on television shows. She also is known for being an entertainment broadcaster. And so in the world of entertainment as a Black woman, to get into that and be successful at it, that is something. Welcome to the show, Shelley.
Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate you having us on and shining the spotlight on the San Diego Association of Black Journalists. It's a pleasure to be on someone else's show for a change.
I know, it's different, huh?
I know. I'm the one used to being, the one doing the interviewing. So it's interesting being interviewed.
Yes. And also we have on the show today, we have Donna Stewart. And, you know, Donna is the immediate past president of the organization. And she currently is the news operations manager for NBC in San Diego. And if you don't know, she can tell you a little more about what that job entails, but she's involved in the process of training and hiring and is very involved in the workings of the station. And NBC has been a big supporter of the Black Journalist Organization. So welcome to the show, Donna.
Thank you so much, Angela. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. And so, okay, the newest member and our new president of the San Diego chapter, Keith Bryant, is here. And Keith, I'm going to tell people, you know, it's kind of exciting to find out that you are actually a meteorologist, you're a news producer, and I know you've got an extensive career, so we're going to let you talk a little bit about it. But just wanted to say welcome to the show, Keith, and congratulations on taking over the helms of this organization. And we pass the baton over to you, Keith.
Oh, well, thank you, Angela. Thank you, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, being president is great. And Angela, thank you for being my vice president. So I wouldn't be here without the legacies of Donna and Shelley. So I'm happy to be here. And as Angela said, I am a news producer at NBC7. I'm doing the morning show. So watch at 4:30 because that's my show.
Well, you have already come in like gangbusters. I can tell you that, you know, already you've got new members coming into the club. You've got us doing fun activities. We're partnering with organizations, and you know, there's something to be said for experience, which we have, but there is also something to be said about energy. So we're happy to have your energy. Also, your creativity and your vision too is exciting. But I wanted just to start off by saying that the founder of the organization, Jerry McCormick, is not here today because he actually is in a board meeting for the San Diego Association of Professional Journalists this morning. So he couldn't be here. He'll be on another show when we do other activities. But I would be remiss to celebrate the 21st anniversary of this organization in 2021 if we did not give homage to Jerry for starting, nurturing, and bringing us to this point. So Donna, tell us a little bit about Jerry, his background, and any history about how he started this chapter.
Yeah, so like you said, the chapter started 20 years ago. It was in 2000. It actually started with a bunch of employees from the Union Tribune. There were just a few, as is you would expect in San Diego, most of the newsrooms don't have a lot of Black folks in them. And so there is a national organization, the National Organization of Black Journalists. And so around the country, different regions have their own local chapters. So when Jerry got to town and looked around the newsroom at the Union Tribune and saw a few Black faces, he was like, you know what, we kind of need to pull something together here for San Diego. My understanding is that there had been a chapter years prior, but that had long since gone under. So Jerry and people from the UT, Ozzie Roberts, who had a long time editorial column in the UT. So we actually have, we're probably going to talk about this in a little bit, but we actually have a scholarship that we named for Ozzie Roberts. Maria Hunt, who was a writer, she did like stuff about food and restaurants and things like that, critic for the UT. Gil Griffin, Bernie Jones, Samuel Altman. So these were all people who got together and decided they were going to make this happen. And here we are 21 years later. I don't think anyone could have imagined in that small group in that small room in the UT that we would have turned into the organization that we are today.
Well, it's interesting because if you think about what the landscape must have been like 21 years ago, because even today in 2021, we have so few Black journalists. We have so few on the air. I mean, who are the anchors? We have on television. You go to other cities, and every station has a Black anchor. So I think that this organization is so important, and especially in a time where the media is what shapes people's thought process, and that's why fake news did what it did and created an environment in this country that was so scary. And so one of the things that representation matters is having Black people in the newsroom, on the production side. You can be there to help shape those stories and get the truth of our community out, and also give us the right perspective on our communities. So I want to ask each of you, how did you get into journalism? What was it that brought you to journalism? So I start with Shelley.
Angela, when I first joined, NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists, I was a college student in my hometown of Houston, and thanks for, before we were live on air, everyone was asking me how my family's doing, and they're doing just fine. The roller coaster of, having power and no power, and water and no power, no water, but they're doing well. But I was a student at the HBCU there, Texas Southern University, and I was a member of the student chapter. And, I've gone, I've studied radio and television in college, but most of my career has been in radio and on the entertainment side. And so I find that when I go to the national conventions, I am one of the only entertainment, music, radio people there, but I see more and more of us joining the association. But that's how I became familiar with NABJ as a college student studying radio and television. And subsequently, every city I've been to, I moved from Houston to New York City. For 12 years, I was a member of the New York Association of Black Journalists. And then when I moved here to San Diego, the first thing I did was I looked up SDABJ, and I was so excited that there was a chapter.
It's interesting about you going into entertainment. So what attracted you to entertainment journalism? Were you like a fan of particular music?
Well, I grew up singing and performing. And so my life was always about entertainment and music and pop culture. And so naturally, when I got into radio, music radio, I became an entertainment reporter on the radio. And then I started doing it on television. So I was always about music and entertainment and pop culture. Yeah.
Okay. So now, Keith, what made you want to go into journalism?
Oh gosh. I said, it's very interesting. Me, I'm obsessed with television, very obsessed with television. So for me growing up, so basically it's one of my favorite childhood movies. I'm not sure if people may know, but it was Harriet the Spy. It was on Nickelodeon back in the 90s. And so for me, the character Harriet, she was like always investigating and, writing her own, blog. And then throughout my as I got older, I just saw other TV shows. Oh gosh, I'm really probably gonna date myself. Like That's So Raven or Lizzie McGuire. They always had an episode about journalism and or being on a yearbook staff or running for a newspaper. And I thought, okay, whenever I get to middle school or high school, I'm gonna do that because that looks like fun. And that didn't happen in middle school, but once high school happened, I started writing for the opinions page of my newspaper, The Loudspeaker. And I really just enjoyed that. And then from that, writing for my newspaper and becoming features editor my senior year, I decided, I thought TV was the most powerful medium to do that because when growing up, I mean, I grew up in LA. So LA news is very much different than news around the country. We always have speed chases, we always have entertainment. Sometimes Justin Bieber could be the lead story at the nightly news at 11. So for me, that really I just like telling people stories and really changing the world, if that sounds cliche. And I just enrolled in my journalism program at San Jose State, and I just fell in love with it even more.
Well, it's interesting. I started my career because I was I actually wanted to write movies. And so I was a writer, and I wrote an article for Essence Magazine. I was going to college, and I mailed it to them. And when you're young, you're sort of like, hey, you need to hire me, and you need to give me, anyway, I didn't hear back from him. And I ran into a writer and she said, oh no, they take a long time, they'll get back to you. And sure enough, they did. And Marsha Ann Gillespie, who was the editor-in-chief at the time of Essence Magazine, was coming to Los Angeles. And so she said, we want to talk to you about your proposal. And so now let me tell you how young I was. I brought my mother with me